Hi, I'm Dries de Costa, CEO at Meet Dwight. Our digital worker bot Dwight automates administrative mundane tasks in and out of different systems, working 24/7 whilst never calling in sick and never going on leave. He can do the work of up to 12 people, but at a fraction of an employee's full-time cost. That's enough about us. Let's get on with the show! Well, good morning, and you find me in May 2025 for a brand new series of Recruiters in Cars Getting Coffee. It's been a little while, I know you've missed us, however have we got news for you, because I have been reliably informed that Glyn Blaize, COO at Fosse, is having a Keeping in Touch Day today in London with the crew, having come back from a genuine life-saving surgery just very, very recently. So in a couple of weeks' time, he's going to be back in the full swing of things. So what I want to do is give him a call, see if he's available for a drive, a chat, and of course our obligatory coffee. For those of you who don't know Glyn, Glyn and I met I think about 10 years ago when he just started building recruitment analytics platform NorthStar. He's actually a twice successfully exited tech entrepreneur with NorthStar and a more recent venture called Amdaris. But Glyn and I first met back in those days. Before that, he actually was an ex-professional rugby player who fell into recruitment. And talking of doing things twice, Glyn has actually twice come very, very close to dying. So we will explore that in more detail as well. So let's see if Glyn's available for a chat to talk about all things recruitment, tech, but actually most importantly to see what this recent episode in his life, how he's reflected on that and how that is informing the new Glyn Blaize version 2.0 going forward. So let's give him a call and I'll see you hopefully in London.
Hello, Glyn speaking.
Hey Glyn, it's Dries here. How are you?
Oh, Dries, I'm doing well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, buddy. Listen, I hear you are having a Keeping in Touch Day today in London with Fosse, is that right?
Yes. I'm keeping in touch, and I'm meeting my new chairman for lunch.
New chairman? Oh,
Yeah.
right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that a little bit later, but are you about for a drive, a coffee and a catch-up?
Absolutely. This morning I've got some window free, so if I pick you up, we'll go.
Sounds good. I will see you into Frastically. Knock, knock.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Come in?
Good to see you.
Good to see you again, man. How are you?
Yeah, I'm actually doing very well now.
Yes.
Very, very, very well.
Yes, excellent. Well, we're in sunny Victoria, and like a proper baller, you've driven in.
Yes.
I always thought that was for like the high-powered execs, which clearly you are. I just
Clearly.
Really good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
Should we go for a little drive,
Yes.
grab a coffee?
Let's do this.
A few moments later.
So thanks for doing this. Appreciate your time.
That's okay. No, it's good. It's good to see you, to be honest.
Likewise. And look at the weather. It's stunning out there. So before we get going proper, some quick fire questions, if that's all right with you.
Let's do it.
What was your first job?
First job was in recruitment, was Eden Brown.
Okay.
But prior to that, I did have a job straight after I left school in a factory making A4 binders. Where
I mean, if ever there's a job that's almost obsolete now, it'd be A4 binders, wouldn't it?
But we all sat around this circular thing where the binders would move, and we'd all put different bits on the binders, and if you left your fingers on too long, you'd get electric shocks. It was just like no health and safety. It was like you look back and you're just like, that was just ridiculous.
Which part of the binders were you in charge of?
The spines.
The spine is the most, as all us binder people know, that is the most important part of the job. Right, favourite job?
Favourite job? I think NorthStar was my favourite job. There was just everything in it. You know, you're selling, you're running the business, you're trying to be creative, you're working with developers. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Okay. And your first car?
My first car, Ford Escort Mark II, bright red,
beautiful.
Silver trimmings, absolute beauty of a car.
Still got it?
I do actually wish now that I did have it.
Do you know what? That's why they all these kind of cars from the 70s, 80s, 90s, etc. are becoming so popular and so expensive now, because it's exactly, people like ourselves, I'll include me, even though you're quite a bit older, clearly. I mean, that's obvious to all the viewers. But you kind of, you get to a point where you're like, that was my first car, my dad had that car.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're a bit later on in your careers, your kids maybe are a little bit older, you've got a bit more disposable income.
Yeah.
And then everyone wants to buy them again.
Yeah.
And obviously there's less or fewer of them now about as well.
Yeah,
So.
it's true.
Favourite car?
Favourite car? Do you know what? I had a little, for a little while, I had an electric Mercedes.
Oh, right.
An EQB, I think it was. It was just really fun to drive. It looked like a mini cab, to be honest, but it was a lot of fun to drive.
Just the acceleration of it?
Just the acceleration of it, yeah.
I can imagine. So, but this is a Volvo XC90, which we both have, or in the previous lives, I have also chosen as a family car.
Yes.
What do you think of this?
It's great. I mean, like, it does the 7 seats when you need it.
Yeah.
It's got loads of room. The dog sits in the back the whole time, so...
Okay, so can we take you back to your uni days? Because you were playing semi-pro rugby, and then your life took a bit of a life-changing twist.
Yeah, so I was Wasps and Loughborough. I played a lot of rugby, and during my finals, I moved from Wasps to Rugby Lions just to do my finals because I was up in Leicestershire.
Yeah.
And on my debut there, I broke my femur twice in one go.
Oh.
Segmented fracture of the femur. It's kind of like a car accident type injury.
Was this in a scrum or something, or?
No, I was actually going in for a try. I got tackled, and I landed on top of someone, and then the pack came in and landed on top of my leg.
Oh man!
And it was just a freak, absolute freak accident.
Yikes.
But yeah, you know, these things happen, didn't they?
And this was like the one game your mum had come to watch.
Yeah, so I just signed my contract, and yeah, my mum wouldn't watch rugby because she thought it was like a violent, brutalist sport.
Yeah.
And she came on my debut.
Oh man.
And
she was proven right.
she was
That's why I play football.
Yeah.
My oldest does play rugby. He absolutely loves it. But, so and then what happened? So you ended up in hospital.
Yeah, I was in hospital for quite a while, but I got an embolism, which is never a good thing.
Yeah.
Which meant that I was in intensive care for about 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks in, they called my parents and family to say that I wasn't going to make it. I mean, I was kind of out of it at this time. I didn't really.
Were you in a coma or?
No, I was just ill. Just
Yeah.
ill. Yeah, the embolism just like basically took me out. Yeah, so that was. I mean, I didn't realise how bad it was at the time, but obviously, you know, when you're being told that your son is likely not to make it, it's not an ideal scenario, is it?
Man. And talking of, just as a police car, I thought it was an ambulance is driving by. How old were you at the time?
Oh, I would have been, what, 19?
About 19. Wow. And then, so what happened after? Because obviously you're here to tell the tale.
Yeah, so cut a long story short, I recovered. There was a moment where it's interesting. My dad and his friends and all that, like he had like a lot of connections around the world because he used to go around preaching and things. Anyway, just kind of like a what we would have called at the time like a miraculous thing happened where everyone sort of prayed and stuff for me, and bang, I kind of recovered, and then I came out of hospital and didn't really know what to do with myself, so I started working in corporate anti-fraud for Lambeth Council, finding people who
How
were
did you
doing
fall into that?
through an agency, of course.
It wasn't the Fosse.
No, it wasn't the Fosse. It was actually Eden Brown.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
So, but you saw this job and you thought, yeah, this is a bit of me.
Well,
Enforcer on the pitch and now off the pitch.
well, it was interesting. I think that was my dalliance with public sector, and I swore never ever to go near public sector again.
And so then, how did you actually end up in recruitment?
Well, I sat on one of my breaks, and you know, in the old days, you used to have the old days. You know, there used to be a lot.
You're quite a bit older than I am.
There used to be a lot of advertising, didn't there? Newspaper advertising, and there was this advert that just stood out to me, and it said, "Are you a shooting star?" Looked at it, said, "Yep, I am." So I thought I'll apply to that job, and it was actually Parker Bridge, which was an agency at the time, had put an ad in saying, you know, if you think you're a shooting star and you think you can sell, apply. So I applied, had a phone interview, got down to the assessment, the 2 assessment days, and yeah, that was my first like intro into recruitment. And coming out of sport, being in an environment where you could earn for how hard you worked, it was a meritocracy. It was very, very social. There were just so many parallels. I was like, yep, this is me. You know, didn't get a job at Parker Bridge.
You didn't?
No.
So what happened after?
Their loss. But I, even though I didn't get the job, I knew that I wanted to work in recruitment. And therefore, I applied for another job, which was at Eden Brown. And that caused issues because I was working through them, and I got a job in a different department to the person who's looking after me, and he didn't get a he didn't get
the intro.
The intro fee. Yeah. So yeah, that caused a bit of hoo-ha. But so that's how it all started, kind of thing.
And then you climbed the ladder in recruitment all the way up to NorthStar Day. So talk us through that kind of recruitment journey.
Yeah, so so I started off as a trainee consultant, went up into management, then was sales director, commercial director, and worked at a few different recruitment companies. And I think one thing that I realised was that a lot of the companies were having different flavours of the same problems.
Right.
And it wasn't like you go from one recruitment company to another and it's like a completely different ball game, but it was like a different nuance in terms of the problems that they had. And a lot of the problems in recruitment tend to be, you've got really, really good sellers who can rainmake, but operationally the platforms they work from, the way they operate is often not as optimized as it could be. And it kind of saw a gap in the market and wanted to go out and consult doing that. So
isn't that what failed salespeople do? They go into ops?
No.
I'm sorry, I'm joking.
I was good at both. I still stayed in sales.
I want to can that silence there. That was a joke for all your ops people out there. We massively value, obviously, your That's what people would say, right? Sometimes. So.
Yeah. But I think it's like if you know you're good at something and you can sort of make the difference, and you can go into a business and transform it. I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I think perhaps there is something in that we used to, a lot of the time we used to say failed recruiters go into in-house but like actually if you can make a name for yourself and you can make things happen, then it's worth it.
Listen, I was genuinely only joking because, to your point, you're kind of improving the life of all the various salespeople by doing that. So then, fast forward, where were you when you started NorthStar? Because this was a bit of a joint venture, is that right?
Yeah. So I was I wanted to go and do some consultancy, and I met the then CEO of Opus down Rymel at a directors event.
Okay.
And I was telling him what I wanted to do and what I was planning to do, and it was all set up. And he's a mercurial recruitment guy, isn't he? It's like, no, come do it with me. I've got the platform and everything like that. So ended up going firstly to do consultancy with Darren. So he became like my investor, and I brought in a few clients, and I was going and doing sort of ops consultancy for different businesses, and that was quite exciting. And then I kind of was like, every time I'm in the business, everyone's loving it, and we're making loads of ground. But then as soon as I come out of the business, the CEOs or the management team are reverting to type and going back to how they were before, because that's just kind of natural. And I was like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And that's where sort of NorthStar was sort of born on a whiteboard, going through those problems and thinking, well, actually, what if you left a technology platform which dashboarded out and pointed to the issues, the problems, the challenges that were in that business?
So people could self-manage.
Exactly.
And so what did NorthStar actually do? Describe it in like a couple of sentences.
So in its first instance, it was mainly, let's say, it was like a board pack, a digital board pack type, but pulling all of the data out of the business. But then realised that actually the sum of the business was the recruiters, and you really needed to provide the recruiters with the insights that would drive the board pack, more effectively. So essentially we built a product that actually looked at the recruitment KPIs, but also the board KPIs, and everything sort of fed up into each other.
In a
and
beautiful,
it was
beautiful visual
yeah.
representation
And
as well, wasn't
this
it?
was the thing. So like one of the things that I learned was like if you've got a good piece of tech and it looks ugly, you're likely to sell, but you won't sell very much. If you've got a really good piece of tech, a really bad piece of tech, but it looks really good, for some reason it would sell.
Yeah.
But if you've got a good piece of tech that looks really, really good, then you've won both. So really worked hard on the UI and the actual the way in which it looked. So.
And that's where we first met as well, talking about business model and revenue models and stuff like that in a little, what was it, a Nero coffee shop or something, wasn't it?
Because we had a mutual friend
at Monument.
Yeah.
We were both a bit younger then.
Yes.
But did we both have more hair? Certainly I did.
No, I probably had some.
I was asking for a friend. So you had that, and Darius, let's touch on that briefly as well, but in all of that, what's the life of a tech recruiter really like? Because, you know, you had two successful, tech entrepreneur. You had two successful exits, but it's not all roses, is it?
No, and I think saying you're an entrepreneur and being an entrepreneur and starting a business, I think is exciting. But if you really want to go at it, the sacrifices you need to make are quite considerable. And it also depends on your personality. Like I'm someone whose brain is just going the whole time. So I'd have my notes by my bed and I'd have ideas at 3 a.m. And Charlie, who was my co-director, I'd be sending her, you know, messages of ideas and things like that.
She'd love that if that was 3 in the
Yeah,
morning.
it's funny. We laugh about it now because, you know, I was just so excited about life and what we were doing.
Yeah.
But I think there's certain things in my life which I sacrificed in the pursuit of doing what we're doing. And if I did it all over again, I would probably push more to get investment to have a larger team and more functions, rather than thinking that, a few good people can.
Rather than running yourself into the ground, I think is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
When you say you sacrifice things, are we talking about like time with family, or what specifically is that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I had a young family. Sacrificed a lot of time with family. My wife is an absolute trooper. She was brilliant. Got a heart of gold, and she was very, very patient with everything. But you look back and you realise, especially with the kids, there's time that you just don't get back, isn't there?
Yeah.
You know, when they're young and, you know, in their formative years. And I guess the more you sort of learn about adolescent development and things like that, if you had all of that information, there's probably different decisions that one would make.
More on family in a bit. And then Andaris came after.
Obviously, I was good at building platforms, operational platforms. Andaris was, I think they're valued at about 7 million when I went in. They've been going for 13 years. They hadn't been able to build a real operational platform. They wanted to grow. They had ambitions, but just weren't able to do it. And I came in. I saw where the issues were. I saw how we could create like a really, really slick operational platform, and we sort of managed to pull a team together and build so that we were. I think when I joined, there's about 280 people. And we grew to nearly 1,000 over 2 years. So
all organic.
All organic. I built that platform in order to get us there. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
And then the exit came when, and are we able to talk as to what that looked like in terms of valuation?
I mean, from 7 million valuation, the exit was just under 100 million. So. To do that in such a short space of time was really, really exciting. But I guess the best bit was creating platforms that like are self-propelling. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So you create them in a way whereby they grow exponentially, but you've put in you've applied certain things so that they just keep growing. And I think that was really exciting, just seeing how the momentum could come together. We were bought by like a big American 12 billion turnover business. It's a different world, and that wasn't,
that wasn't you.
I have to be in an agile environment where things are changing. Yeah. It wasn't that.
But for the viewers, say if one day you find yourself selling £100 million or
pounds,
£100 million business, then maybe you too can buy a Volvo XC90.
Oh dear.
Shall we get a coffee?
Yeah, yes, let's get a coffee.
Wonderful.
More moments later.
Right, all caffeine up. Cheers, sir.
Cheers, sir.
There's a little plug there for Leon. Is it good coffee?
Good coffee.
I haven't had Leon for a little while. So at the time of filming, like we said earlier, you were on a kit day
Yes.
with Le Fosse. Having just come back from genuine life-saving surgery, I think we can say that. But from memory, that kind of journey started during COVID times?
Yeah, February 2020.
So what happened?
So I'd been down to London on business, and I caught one of the early strains of COVID before all the information was out about COVID.
Yeah.
It was really weird the way that it presented itself. So it wasn't necessarily, I got the sort of cold and whatever, but like I ended up with this leg that ended up just swelling up and didn't know why my leg was swelling up.
Just one?
Just one leg just went really big and swollen. Didn't know what it was. They thought it could be like a blood, like I had DVT. So I had all these tests.
Yeah.
And the one thing the NHS didn't do was do a blood test to see what was going on.
Right.
Anyway, eventually after probably about a month of like being ill, they did a blood test and they realised that my kidneys had got impaired and that it was COVID. And yeah, my kidney function from that point of having COVID just declined. So in January of this year, I had a kidney function of 1%. So
sorry, whoa.
Yeah.
1%?
1%, yeah. So the decline was like so, I say so rapid, I mean it's over just over 4 years, but yeah, it was just absolutely crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And just quickly skipping ahead and then we'll skip back, but as you were joining Le Fosse, you had conversations with them because you knew that surgery might, was a highly likely outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many different businesses and recruitment has its own nuances.
Yeah.
And Le Fosse have been a surprising gem in my life, just the way that they have sort of cared for me, given me the bandwidth that I've needed, and just put my health first,
Yeah.
My SLT have been absolutely just incredible. And the interesting thing is, like, towards the end, I was committed. I really felt that there was a piece of work I needed to do operationally.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you spoke to a medical professional, they would have said that I shouldn't be working.
Dude, you were working hard.
Yeah, but
we were having calls, and you're like, I mean, we'll come back to this, but you kept things fairly quiet as to your condition.
I did.
However,
I did.
You were working like from hospital beds without people realising.
Yeah.
The beauty of Teams is you can change your backgrounds.
Exactly, and and they basically allowed me to lead the queues, but made sure they were like checking in and making sure that they were making adjustments and things like that. And I've been in situations where prior to joining Le Fosse, I had kidney issues and I wasn't treated the same as Le Fosse has treated me. So I've got a lot of love.
Amazing.
For Le Fosse.
So clearly you're not a failed salesperson then if they make all those allowances for their COO. I'd take it all back. See what I did there?
Very good. Redemption.
Yeah. So, but let's take it back a little bit then. So, because initially there was a match, right? You had a match in the family. Hopes were
my
high.
sister. Yeah, but so it was.
This is for kidney transplant.
Kidney transplant. So when I found out that I needed to have a kidney transplant, my sister came forward and went through the various tests and things, and she had a final biopsy, and the doctor in the NHS damaged her kidney, and that's going very, very high to think, this isn't going to affect me, to, quite low, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm now just on a waiting list to find out if someone has an accident.
All hope's gone. Suddenly.
Yeah.
So during that period, so kidney failure was down to 1%, or came to be down to 1%.
Yeah.
We were at an event. We briefly met. You were talking at the event, and I remember quite vividly as we were there. You were like, I've asked them to find me a meeting room because I've just got to pop off to do
dialysis.
Dialysis. So again, you're quite a private person, so I think a lot of people that you were working with, or certainly in the sector, were totally oblivious as to what was going on with you. How many times were you having to do dialysis on any given day?
Yeah, 4 to 5 times a day. And this is again, like, people got used to it at the Fosse, so I'd have a meeting and I'd have my bag hung up and I'd be all connected up and everything like that. And it just became my life, but I didn't want my illness to get in the way whilst I was still, you know, able to, in my opinion, work. I didn't want it to get in the way. And I think, even though it was really difficult, like let's say for instance, I would be hosting an event and I'd be, you know, doing a panel or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'd have to perhaps dialyse beforehand and dialyse afterwards and be socialising with, you know, and it's like, you know, but I kind of was very private, so didn't really, you know, some people sort of, you know, when we were out, you know, saw or whatever, but I
because
think,
you were also fatigued, headaches.
oh man, I mean, towards the end, like everything, like even like I wasn't sleeping, so it just.
Headache's an understatement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it like full-on migraines?
Yeah. Well, yes, and but it was like so many parts of my body were just breaking down.
Yeah.
You know, so like looking back now, I don't know how I did it, but I think there is something to do with the strength of the mind in all of these situations.
So, and then, yeah, as I say, most of the sector, most people that know you, you know, I've known you on and off for 10 years, totally unaware of this.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, boom, I see something on my LinkedIn feed. Going from private person Glyn to this wonderful human being called Hannah Blaize, your wife, has suddenly put this JustGiving fundraise all over.
Yeah.
And there's your story.
Yeah. Out there.
Out there. And I think the reaction, you know, the amount of shares on the groups that I'm on in the sector was just out of this world. Yeah. The reason for the fundraise was to find you that new donor, because obviously your sister was now unable to help.
Yeah.
All hope's gone. And then Hannah's like, this is it, I'm taking matters in my own hands, because my husband is genuinely going to die if we don't sort this out.
Yeah.
Puts that out there. And then this fundraise, because you were looking to raise about 80K, went past the 80K in 48 hours, which I've never, ever, ever seen a fundraise go that quick. Insane. Went over 100 grand.
Yeah. Insane.
To the point where I'm joking with you going, Glyn, this buys you a really nice car, mate. I mean, if this is all like a swindle, you've done very well. Obviously, we're still in the Volvo, so that didn't happen. But just talk us through that whole journey, because, as I say, it was just phenomenal, the amount of love that I saw towards you. Yeah. But, you know, how did that feel in your shoes?
I mean, first things first, like being a private person, having...
You didn't know about this, right?
No, she didn't tell me. She didn't tell me. So, like, having your life splashed across, you know, multiple platforms and things, just for me was just a nightmare. And I've learned so much, because my initial response was anger. What have you done? Why have you told people my business? And then seeing the response, I was just completely humbled, and the messages that were sent, just completely humbled and just blown away, you know.
Because it was a dark period in your life, right?
It was, and like, you know, even though we'd sort of exited the previous role, it wasn't as I would have liked, as in like the relationships and things like that. It wasn't as I would have liked. So I had kind of lost faith in a lot of humanity. Right. And then this was like a complete swing the other way that it was just incredible. Yeah. Like I still have no words just to think that, you know, if you look at it in the grand scheme of life, it's actually a short period. Everyone just joined in to save someone's life, and that just, you know, it's hard to comprehend still.
And again, you're like, this isn't Hollywood. Like, we're not overstating things. Like, it was genuine life-saving actions from first Hannah, and then how people came together and responded.
Absolutely.
So the fundraise happens, and then the money's one side, but then you've got a bunch of people volunteering as well.
So 7 people.
Amazing.
And that's another thing, like donating a kidney to someone who isn't in your family. I still just marvel, and like obviously the blood type had to be exact, which reduced down the number, but just people wanting to come forward and like save someone's life, just man, I just have a lot of love and joy and gratitude for like humanity and the friendships that you build over years and the people that you interact with, and
probably people you hadn't spoken to for many years. That
I mean, I even had
came out of the
people
woodwork.
connecting to me on LinkedIn and just saying, I've just heard your story and just want to wish you all the best and things like that. And it's just like, yeah, it was a game changer for me in terms of my perspective on the world and on people.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes, you know, in business, when you are growing businesses and those businesses are selling, you often see the darker side of humanity. And this has not only balanced it out, but this has just changed my viewpoint on life. And has made me want to be more of a force for good in the world, because there are a lot of good people out there. You just don't realise.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And let's talk briefly, if we may, about the kids during this period. So eventually you find a donor. You then, you know, tests obviously on both sides are having to be taken, prep needs to be taken, and then you get towards a date.
Yes.
And let's talk a bit about family impact there.
Yeah, so my eldest two, I've got a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and she was 6 at the time. I think it was very difficult for them because, you know, they're having, you know, they're studying at school, they're having to deal with their own things, and, you know, the fact that daddy might die, and they at home, they saw the worst of it.
Yeah.
You know, they saw the really, really bad side of being chronically ill, which I kind of sort of hid from the world. So they knew how bad it was. My 6-year-old, she pushed me away because she couldn't handle the fact that her daddy may go.
Yeah.
And she really, really struggled with that. And it's so interesting that after it, like now, she's like literally on me the whole time. Now she knows I'm here to stay. So
because you told me the beautiful thing where you wake up in the morning, she just wants to play with you.
Yeah, she wants to play, and we've got like a story game that just happens day by day, and the story.
Oh, it evolves.
It evolves. So she's got a little doll
nice.
called Baby Clem, and we go
Is
on.
that who we've got in the back?
That's who she sent me to.
Yeah,
She sent me to London with
back.
Baby Clem. We go on adventures together, and we've got like a little squirrel who we go with called Squirrely. So it's just
amazing.
It's just amazing.
Amazing.
And this is the bit about, you know, the bits that you like. When I was working so hard, I kind of feel like I lost a little bit of these type of things with the older two.
Yeah,
because
so
I was so focused.
I was going to ask you. So then, how is this whole experience impacted on now your life view, family, work, just general balance?
Work-life balance is a crazy thing because I don't know whether there is such a thing as work-life balance. I think there is a continuum of your work, and sometimes it has to go out of balance for you to get to where you are.
Yeah.
But your North Star needs to be that there is this, but there is this point at which your North Star has to be. There's this point at which things are in equilibrium and you are fully invested. But it's an understanding and a communication, and I think that's something I'm learning more and more. Is like, you know, even if you think you communicate well, communicate more. You know, and like if you communicate that and you know where your North Star is, you get back to that place you need to be, as opposed to it running away with you.
So we already talked about how wonderful the Fosse have been
Yeah.
in terms of supporting you. Let's talk a bit about them as a potential employer for people out there who maybe want to get in recruitment or who are in recruitment looking for their next career move. And then let's talk a bit about your role now, what you're looking to achieve at the Fosse. How does tech play into all of that?
Yeah. So I think when I was going through the interview process with La Fosse, one of the things that stood out to me was that there are lots of businesses which talk about being inclusive, who talk about, you know, wanting to, you know, sort of work with people from diverse backgrounds, diverse ethnicities, diverse social backgrounds and things like that. But in my experience, I haven't seen that work practically when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
And La Fosse has been very, very different in that respect. You know, even like with the academy, they have a specific quota that is non-negotiable in terms of the backgrounds of people that they're bringing in.
So what does the academy do, sorry?
So the academy is brings in sort of second jobbers, school leavers, and sort of trains them in tech and then deploys them into, you know, blue chip organisations, so that people from sort of disadvantaged backgrounds get a chance to, you know, work for some of the UK's largest and most successful firms, and it opens the door. But even if you look at the quotas of recruitment consultants that they bring in, and their associate cohort is very, very diverse. I think Ollie Whiting, who's our CEO, he has been very, very intentional about bringing such diversity onto our senior leadership team, that and you see it in the decision making and the way that we read decisions. Our backgrounds and our experiences have kind of shaped the way we think. And when you see all of those different things together, you realise that he's really done something quite incredible to get that diversity of thought.
Diverse thinking. I mean, it's not only just the right thing to do, but actually if you look at the business stats, most importantly, you look at successful businesses, they do have that kind of diverse thinking running through the company, and they tend to outperform companies that don't.
Yeah. 100%.
Amazing. So we'll put a little link underneath, so if anyone does want to go down the academy path or apply at Fosse, then they can do so. So what about your remit at Fosse then, in terms of what you're looking to achieve, as the COO then, and how does tech play into that as part of the future of recruitment?
Yeah, so as COO, my remit is to drive operational efficiency. The way in which I see it is that you've got various elements of platforms within Fosse, and it's saying, like, if rather than looking at it as a whole, seeing it as like various different parts that make up this whole operational platform, and optimizing each of those. Now, it's meant that some of the decisions that have been made have been quite radical, and I know that I've had to make some decisions or propose some decisions, because we sort of do it as a team, propose some decisions or propose some moves to make that have led to quite big shifts within the business. But that is driving us forward into a quite different place. When it comes to tech, I think one of the interesting things that I feel that I see is that tech is moving at an unprecedented pace. And I think, like, COVID had this impact that, from a technology perspective, we moved on maybe even 10, 15 years in the space of like 2 years. And if we don't respond to those changes within the market and those changes which are happening, if we don't respond to that, then I think that businesses are going to be left behind. Recruitment is notoriously quite slow to adopt, quite manual in the processes. And I think what a lot of recruiters fail to do is to find what their secret sauce is, and then work out how they will apply their tech strategy to enhance or to continue to support their secret sauce, as opposed to, we need to be on the AI trail, so let's bring in this tech or do this just for the sake of it, because they don't want to be left behind. But I think there's a real nuanced way to look at it, and I think that but
without giving away trade secrets, what practically do you mean about when you say that?
So let's say, for instance, just a really simple one. Let me think quickly. A really simple one. So you've got a recruitment business which is very metrics dominated. So they work very well from understanding the metrics through and through, and it may not be as relationally astute, but they know that the metrics work. You've got another business which their secret sauce is not about metrics. Their secret sauce is that they have hired and they've developed incredible rainmakers, incredible relationship builders. Now, when they look at their tech and data strategy, to throw in just loads of tech into this business that's relational is not going to make as great a difference, because their secret sauce or the magic comes from the relationships they build. So they need to go, okay, we need to build those relationships. What can we do
to optimize the time where they can go and build the relationships?
Whereas the one which is just on, is more metrics driven, there is so much tech now which can, help you harness your metrics, take away the manual work, can optimize all the minimal tasks, which a lot of that is in those sort of KPI driven, metrics driven environments. So it's really understanding your business and what makes your recruitment business work, but also looking at the horizon and really understanding, okay, let's say, for instance, there's going to be a huge change in software development. So there's loads of tech recruiters out there, but we know that there are agentic software developers coming where you'll be able to provide an agent with a brief, The agent will develop that piece of software. They will do the QA on that software. They will do the documentation on that software. So if that's coming, and that's going to be here in the next year, software development per se, at the junior level, definitely, but maybe at the senior level as well, may actually go obsolete. So what are we doing in terms of thinking about what does the recruitment landscape look like for our business when that becomes the norm?
Or it's almost like a development supervisor.
Yeah.
Just like checking the work, make sure it is as it should be, and making some tweaks.
Yeah. So there are literally so many changes. And I also think that, and this plays into, you know, a lot that we've talked about, is that a lot of businesses have not really thought about the importance of data over time, and then they want to go into embedding AI and things like that with data, which is quite frankly quite shonky.
Yeah.
And then they end up spending loads of money and not getting the results they would have liked because they haven't really had any thought process on data hygiene. You know, so there's a lot to think about in terms of doing it, and I think it's better to spend more time sharpening your axe in order to implement something rather than implementing and then hoping that it works, you know?
Yeah, makes sense. Well, listen, Glenn, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic.
Like, it's such a privilege as well to be able to air the kind of full story now that you've come out the other end in terms of the kidney transplant and everything else. From a man who's almost died twice, what kind of parting words of wisdom would you have for the people watching this?
Number one would be, like, life is short, and you know, be good. We live between 2 points, don't we? And I think it's easy sometimes to get carried away with everything in life. But I think the people who are important to you, the people who you love having time and relationships with, you know, really invest into that. That's really, really good. Forgive quickly.
Oh, well, that's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a really, really tough one, and I've struggled with that in the past when wrongs have been done. But life is so short, you know, and when you realise that, you know, when you've been as ill as I have, and you realise that actually, you know, everything is kind of fleeting. So
in the scheme of things, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And I think, like, pursue your dreams. Like, failure is, there's so much where we worry about failure, we worry about getting things wrong, but, you know, because life is, I keep saying about life is so short, but just pursue dreams, you know, and I don't know, seek to, as you learn, help others learn.
Yeah.
You know, there's a generation that's coming up behind us, and our wisdom and what we have experienced will help that generation,
right.
But they will also teach us as we engage with them.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And lastly, if you fancy a new career, apply for the Fosse.
Yeah, I think I love the Fosse. I think it's a great place to be, and I think they are a thinking company.
Well, if you have enjoyed this episode, then please do consider subscribing, and we'll see you at the very next. Thanks again, Glyn.
Fabulous. Thank you. Cheers.